So,
and the effect is the same. Everything.
It can be, not always. Sometimes it's better to access a different area of the body. Like if your fingers, you got a problem with the finger, up here on the shoulder blade is one of the better places.
Okay.
This works also good through the arm and the hand.
It's interesting you said that.
Mm-hmm. So, for every, like, I work with a wide variety of problems with people, anywhere from life-threatening illnesses to I stub my toe. And sometimes color therapy is your best avenue for success to get relief. Sometimes it's an essential oil. Sometimes it's doing Vitaflex. In many cases, they got to do the lemonade, and sometimes you got to do them all. Depends what it is.
It's interesting you mentioned the finger, because I slammed the closet door on my finger a couple of days ago, and lavender and whatever helped it.
How's it
get
feeling
better.
right now?
It's way better. But
is it hurting now?
No, not as much, anyways.
But
my question was,
that's
what about
helichrysum? Rub that in. And this is
is your intuition? Would you say as you're doing the Vitaflex, that your intuition speaks to you, or?
Well, here's the thing: is that
you know what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. Well, when I have people I'll work with people, and people say you're very really intuitive, and because I have a lot of training, sort of in science and mathematics, I tend to think A to B, B to C, C to D, and sometimes I go A to Z. But I tend to be fairly somewhat methodical about it. But people have said they've watched me think, and they say you think you're a cluster thinker. You go here to here to here to here to here, and it may seem chaotic, as you know when I'm talking. Mm-hmm. But I try and weave it all together, and things just sort of come together. But
I do. Absolutely.
When I work on people, I'll put my hands on them, and I'll get a sense of, oh, this is wrong or not wrong. There's an issue here. There's an issue here. And then as soon as I start working on them, I'll actually feel it, and I'll go, because the body will tell you everything if you know how to access that, and so I don't. In many cases,
you know how to access that, so.
And that's not hard. It's actually quite simple, and so a lot of times it's just. When I'm working, I get bits of information, and then I put it together, and I go, and here it is. And people go, well, that's amazing. How do you know that? And I go, well, your body's actually screaming that at me. And they go, what do you mean? I said, remember that spot hurt there, and that spot hurt there? That tells me there's an issue in this part of the body. When this part of the body refers to a very specific emotional state, like when you worry about money, you get lower back pain. All the time. There's no way around it. I've worked with thousands of people and hundreds of people with back problems, if not thousands. And anytime they have lower back pain, they're worrying about money. And I've had people argue, the longest anybody argued was about 2 weeks before I finally went, you know what, I get it. I do worry about money all the time. I go, I know it. Most people, it takes me 5 minutes. And because as I work through their thought processes, it becomes very clear. One woman phoned me and talked to me for a half an hour and argued. She said, I have $2 or $3 million in my bank account. I go, it's not about how much you have, it's how much you worry about it. I don't worry, and blah, 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 and on and on. And then all of a sudden she went, oh my God, my son needs $50,000. I said, you're not even worrying about your money.
Yeah, your
and
son.
She got it, and I said, well, here's the deal. You told me you have $2 or $3 million in your account. Either give him $50,000 and shut up, or quit
stop worrying about it.
Or don't give him the money and stop worrying. What are you going to do? And that was the end of the conversation. And I had another woman, I'm giving her a session, I'm working on her, and she said, I don't know, I don't worry about money. I go, yes you do. Your body's, no I don't. Yes you do. No I don't. Yes you do. I give it up. So I talk about anything and everything. And I started talking about the U.S. economy and stuff, and how it was tanking. And she went, oh, it's, or not so much that, but I was saying the dollar exchange rate, because I sell a lot of product.
Canadian U.S. dollars.
Yeah, and so I used to get a very handsome exchange rate for all the, and then when the Bush administration came in, it went almost to zero, It's,
absolutely.
And so I was complaining about this, and this woman said, "Oh yeah, the Bush, they've screwed up the economy, and they've done this, and they're ruining the financial." But I went, you said you don't worry about money. I said, you worry about the entire U.S. economy. And what is that? That's trillions of dollars in your, that's what you say you don't worry about money? I said, I'm worrying about a few thousand. You're worrying about trillions. Who's got the back problem here? She was like, what do I do? I said, bless the administration. What? Bless? I said, what you bless, blesses you, and what you curse, curses you. Bless the administration, and they will bless you. I said, hating anything, cursing anything does not accomplish anything. Again, time, And so she had this very physical condition.
So that comes from your learning of Louise Hay and her
And
teachings.
tying that into the work. Yeah, but because I was, there's this very specific point on each foot for the lower back. And when that hurts, I immediately say, you worry about money. And people most often people go, I'm always worrying about money. I go, I know. So here, what do we do? Why are you worrying about money? And if you go, well, who taught you to worry about money? Your mother, your father, your grandparents? How did your family grow up poor? And that one of those things always shows up, that it's a conditioning. It's
the lower foot, the lower heel.
It's on the spinal points at the top of the inside of the heel. It's a very specific point, and there's a very specific way to access it in VitaFlex. You can't. It's when I'm teaching it. It's a kind of a very unique sort of spot to get at. And once you feel it, you go, and people will feel it. I go, see how that feels? They go, yeah, that feels weird. I go, that's the body speaking to you, saying there's a problem here.
So the lower back will hurt, but that point on the foot won't hurt.
Yes, it will.
It will.
Yes, it hurts. And you will feel it as a practitioner. It will feel weird or unusual. People say, how does it feel? I go, it feels abnormal. I don't know how to describe it. It can feel gritty. It can feel soft. It just stiff. I don't know.
There's a difference.
It doesn't feel right. And in fact, in one class, somebody was saying, oh, you have to be psychic to notice that. And I said, lift up. I said, take my foot. He said, yeah. I said, do my thyroid points. And he said, oh, that feels weird. I went, you're psychic. I said, that's my thyroid points. Did you feel it? Yeah. I said, I have some issue with this thyroid on my left foot. And it was so plain, he immediately went, oh, that feels weird. I went, that's all it is. And when it feels weird, and for me, I said, that hurts, actually. The harder you press, the more it'll hurt. And the more you activate it, the quicker it will actually reverse.
And that's psychic through the sense of touch, I guess.
Well, no, it's not psychic. It's it's just
Come
aware.
on.
It's just aware.
Sure.
Now you could go, there are people who could just say, I can see their thyroid is a problem. Psychically, in a sense, they can see it. They can say, oh, you've got a problem with your thyroid. And you go, well, what's thyroid? Well, thyroid is, when's it my turn? When do I get my just rewards? Or, oh, gee, I just thank you very much for this. Oh, thank you. You deserve it more than me. Here, you take it. That's a thyroid problem. That's all it is.
Wow.
Now, it manifests as a physical problem, and you may be poisoned by fluoride and chlorine and other heavy metals, and who knows, any number of things that once you have that in your psyche, you then draw to you the things to make it go wrong. And your body is then just speaking to you in a language that you don't understand. A pain is just telling you, pay attention. You're feeling guilty about something, depending on where the pain is.
So you went from, being introduced to Stanley Burroughs to being introduced to all these modalities that he wrote about, practicing, helping people, and then you went to becoming an author yourself. Mm-hmm. So what led you there?
Well, I'd always thought, I have to write a book, but writing in
I
school.
have to write a book.
And I had many people say, Tom,
and
you
you've
gotta
manifested that.
And
now.
they would say, you have to write a book. You have to write a book. And I go, oh, yeah, I know I have to write a book. And I
get that too. So I guess that's.
I don't like writing. It's work. You see, all this other stuff is not so much work. And actually, when you think about it, I wrote the book in only about 3 months. 3.5 months is all. Because I've talked to people and they say, you wrote it that quick. And people say, well, how did you get a publisher? I said, I didn't. the publisher came. I was actually approached and asked to write a book, and I said, "Yeah, I can." And they talked to me about a couple things, and they said, "Well, we're not sure. You're necessarily the one." I said, "If there was somebody that knew more than I would give you their name, but there isn't." And they quoted somebody, and I said, "That person, the book he wrote is actually misinformation. It's not even the right information on the cleanse."
Allowed to ask who it is?
No, I would rather not say. And there's a lot of misinformation, and all the time. And so I said, if there's somebody better out there, I'd give you the name. But a week later, they called me back and said, "Yeah, you're the one." And so I, wrote the book, and it's
So
got out there.
Tell me what makes this different from what Stanley Burroughs has written, because you'll have to explain that.
Well, it's Stanley Burroughs. I believe his work. Is by far the simplest, most effective, available and inexpensive therapies that are out there. And the book that he wrote, Healing for the Age of Enlightenment, which I do recommend and I write about in here, and I give him credit for all of his. This isn't my work.
Absolutely.
This is his work. He wasn't the best writer. In fact, 50 to 70% of the people that I talk to who do the lemonade diet or the master cleanse do it wrong, and it doesn't work. And wrong can mean the difference between life and death. As simple as this is, and quite literally. It just has to be done right. And it's so simple, but yet people now, people would call me before I'd written my book, and I'd have to ask them 10 questions. And usually by the third question, they've already done 2 or 3 things wrong. I go, no wonder it's not working, you're not doing this.
So what do you mean it's a difference between life and death?
Well, if somebody's terminally ill, and I've seen this, if they do the cleanse right and do it long enough, generally they can heal themselves. In most cases. But if they do it wrong and stay on it extensively, it won't work. Like one thing is just people don't drink it fresh. You go on the internet, you go on YouTube, you'll see probably 10 YouTubes of how to make lemonade. And they all mix up a big gallon jug or half-gallon jug. Well, after 10 minutes after you make it, you pour it down the sink. That's what you're supposed to do. But people aren't going to pour it down the sink. I just made a gallon. Why would I pour it down the sink? Because it's not going to help you. It's a total waste
of potent
for 10 minutes after you make it.
Wow.
And if you don't know this, and my own experience, I did 100 days of the Master Cleanse in 1980. In total, not in one length of time. I mean, in my book, there's a testimonial. I had a woman did 372 days in a row. But I would go to work, mix up 4 quarts or a Canadian gallon, 160 ounces, and in 8 hours, drink it all and be starving. And I'd come home and go, geez, I'm so hungry. And my girlfriend would make me a lemonade, and I'd drink this, and I'd go, oh, this is amazing. So I feel this, you make wow, that's such a great lemonade. Well, I figured it out. It was fresh. When I figured this out, I now make half the amount of lemonade at work, fresh. So instead of drinking 160 ounces, I'm now drinking 80, and I'm not hungry, and I am more energetic and feel better. Half the amount, more energy, not hungry. Drink twice as much, not fresh, I'm hungry, don't feel good. That's simple. So I've written 100 pages on the Master Cleanse so people understand how and why it works, and then how to utilize it to your optimal or best advantage. If you're going to spend 10 days drinking lemonade, do it right.
Absolutely.
I don't have any, it doesn't give me any advantage necessarily in anything other than the world gets better if people are doing it right. But people doing it wrong then just badmouth it in a sense, and that's really an unfortunate thing that happens, is that people say, oh, this is a stupid thing and it didn't work. No, what you did was a stupid thing that didn't work. You have to do it properly. And fortunately, the first time I did it to prove it wouldn't work, I did do it mostly right, and it changed my life. And in fact, on Tuesday I was in a grocery store and got talking to the woman behind me, and I had mentioned that I did the lemonade, and I didn't say who I was or anything. She said, oh yeah, I did the lemonade. She said about 3 or 4 years ago. And she said, I did it for 15 days. She said, it changed my life.
Wow.
And then I said, well, you know, I said I did about 100 days in 19. I said, it changed my life. But she said this first. And I, you know, it was just, for her to
That
say
must have
that.
been
And she
just-
said, why haven't I done it since? And she said, I was in a really tough place in my life, a really hard place. And everything shifted when I did it. And it was very interesting to see her face because she was going, wow, yeah, that really did work.
So
You know,
everything shifted while I did it, so that goes to imply it's not just your physical body, it's gonna,
because, well, the thing is, when you start to feel better physically, you start to feel better emotionally. And when you feel better emotionally, you open up spiritually. So everything shifts. And then it's just like, oh, geez, life is really good.
it's a mind, body, soul connection.
And it one leads to the next, to the next, to the next. It doesn't matter where you start. We're a mind, body, spirit in a sense. And if you start on the spiritual level, that's fine. Now, I see a lot of people who work on the spiritual level and ignore their bodies, and their bodies are train wrecks. Oh, it doesn't matter. I just love the food and I do all this thing. And they're dying of cancer. I mean, literally. And I go, if you love yourself, you're going to eat food that's healthy and loving to your body. Drinking Coca-Cola and French fries and burgers is not a spiritually uplifting experience. You may think that you can do that. I tell people, here's what because I read this somewhere, somebody said, oh, I'll change that steak I'm eating into vegetables in my body. I can do that. I go, hey, if you can do it in your body, do it in the plate in front of me. And when you can change that crap into something loving and kind to your body up here, I'll believe it when you can do it, that you can do it in your body. And so the lemonade is not something you need to necessarily do forever. Hopefully you don't want to have to do it forever. You get yourself to a place where you actually can.
So what is the recommendation? How many times? Once a year? Twice a year?
I try and do it at least 40 or 50 days a year. I've done it at least 1,500 days since 1979. It's like, do you bathe once a year?
Well, obviously not.
Why? Why not? Why not just once a year? Why not once a lifetime? Well, your body, which is the temple that within yourself you live, your body is the expression of your vehicle to move through life.
So 50 days a year, so that's once a week. Yes?
No. I would be 10 days at a time.
Okay.
A minimum of 10 days. And so if you're going to bathe the outside of your body, why wouldn't you bathe the inside, in a sense?
Absolutely would.
So I try and do it at least 4 times. Depends how much I'm traveling sometimes. But 4 or 5 times a year, and 10 days at a time. And I just always feel better, sleep better. It's always an upside to it.
You mentioned you've authored 2 books. I only have one here. What's the other one?
The other one is called Beyond the Master Cleanse, which is kind of a follow-up to this for people who have done the Master Cleanse, go, wow, this is great. What do I now do? How do I enhance my lifestyle? So I make sort of dietary recommendations, exercise, meditation, yoga, sort of creative visualization, affirmations, just very simple, straightforward tools that you can use on a day-to-day basis to continually improve the quality of life that you have. Like just staying away from, eating meat once a week instead of every day. I mean, I ate it 2 or 3 times a day. And after doing the lemonade, I couldn't eat meat anymore because I could feel
the difference.
Oh, it was
night and day.
Night and day. It was like poison in a sense.
I've been there before. I've gone to a vegetarian diet, but I got sick when I went to a vegetarian diet.
Because you didn't do the lemonade diet.
Well, I didn't even know it existed back then.
So this is kind of a step to bring yourself to a higher.
There.
Because your body's not healthy enough to go from the diet you have to a vegetarian diet. People get sick because their body's trying to cleanse itself. Do this. Do it with ease and grace instead of with struggle and grief. Make it easy. This is to make your life easier, not harder. And it's just
And any age, any time.
the youngest I've seen personally is 4 months of age. I know of newborn. There's a story I read about a woman. She put her 3 and 5-year-old on for 21 days.
Wow.
The 3-year-old had been having seizures and brain seizures and going into convulsions and stuff. After the 21 days of being on the cleanse, they never came back.
Wow. I had seizures when I was a baby too, so.
And the oldest client I've had is 94. The longest period of time, as I mentioned earlier, is 372 days in a row. And I've had pregnant women do it, nursing women, people given a week to live, people given the rest of their life to live, in a sense. I believe it's for anybody and everybody. The key to it is doing it properly.
Right.
And even then, there can be major issues for people. If you have a lot of fear, it'll be more of a struggle. Some people are just so toxic. If you're a coffee drinker, you're going to go through caffeine withdrawal. You're going to get headaches. If you eat a lot of sugar, you're going to look pasty and pale for 2 or 3 days. Your energy will be low as your pancreas is, sort of being revived. But there's ways around all of that. If you get Vitaflex, if you use essential oils, if you use color therapy, you use affirmations.
Those things.
They're adjuncts, yes, to enhance the effects of it. I like to, I use the word lazy, or you could say, I like to do things efficiently. Why not get the best results with the least amount of effort? So
What's the best way to do it?
Absolutely. So, why, pound a nail with a rock if you have a hammer? Why use a hammer if you have a nail gun? Why not hire somebody? It's finding the simplest, most effective means for yourself. And all of us are we're the same. You and I are the same. The only thing that's different is that you're
I'm female.
Female, yes, and I'm male. But we still have some of the same hormones working through, just different combinations or percentages. But you have a heart?
I think I do.
You have a stomach?
Absolutely.
I have lungs. I have a large intestine. I have a liver. Oh, you do too. What's the one fuel that you burn? Glucose.
Glucose.
Me too. Now,
I was going to say sugar, but
yeah,
I've been stopped twice today.
So the difference between you and I is the type of lifestyle you have. What do you eat? How do you sleep? Do you exercise? And most of all, what's the noise
that's going on
between you? Because I have noise in here. I have to catch it. Go, shut up. Stop.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear that. I'll drive. For example, I drive by an accident. And go, geez, I wonder what that. No, I don't want to know what that's like. Why would I want to know what that's like? No, cancel that. I'm going to drive safely. I am protected.
Yeah.
Whatever. So it's that noise that's going on that makes the biggest difference between you and I. And when you can get people in alignment with that, which is thinking their highest thoughts, that the world is a safe place, the world is a loving place, people will support me, I'm supported by the universe, all of those things make for harmony. Now, just because it's going on somewhere else doesn't mean you can't have it in your life. And by being an
What are you referring to then?
No, I'm saying I watched this documentary the other day about North Korea and what's going on there. Oh, I mean it's beyond horrific. But consciousness is shifting there, and when it reaches a certain
shifts here, it'll shift around us.
And as we sort of push that things change there ourselves, that we see change happening, that regime will fall like a house of cards. Like the Berlin Wall and stuff. There's things based on false values they have a limited lifespan, and it may be decades, but it'll reaches a point where it'll melt. It can't sustain itself. Things based on false premises cannot last forever. They can't. There's nothing to sustain it. Fear is only a lack of love.
Absolutely.
Or hate.
Yeah.
And as the world is shifting,
we are shifting.
Yeah.
We are shifting. You mentioned earlier products. What products? You mentioned lamps and.
I manufacture a color lamp because they're not something that's out there necessarily. So I manufacture a lamp for doing color therapy based on Stanley's work. I also sell what's called the relaxer or foot and body massager that imitates VitaFlex, because there aren't VitaFlex practitioners
An
necessarily.
actual device.
Yeah, so they have a small
to
one.
show you.
It's the small one that's about 7 inches long, and it's about this big around, and it has all these pyramidal points. And when you roll your foot on it, it kind of does this.
So you
know,
don't have to do it?
You can, well, you do it to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I have one like a rolling pin, so you can use it anywhere in your body.
Oh,
And whenever I travel, I always bring one with me because it's just so easy to use. And then wherever I go, I never return with it because everybody wants. Well, people go, "Oh, I want that."
There you go.
So I sell those things. I sell my own book. I have a DVD on how to do VitaFlex. It's an instructional video.
Mhm.
It has to be used in conjunction with Stanley Burroughs' book, The Healing for the Age of Enlightenment, which has sort of just
The
goes,
descriptions, I guess. in a
from
sense.
his book. It's literally impossible to learn how to do VitaFlex. You cannot from his book. People have read it just said I don't get it.
I started reading it, but I haven't.
Yeah,
gone
but
through
from when you see my video and then you read the book, then you
all
can come together.
comes together.
Many people go, I want to take your class, and in fact, it's a really good.
Leadway or segue to the class?
After the class, most people go. I say now that you've taken the class, the video will be so much easier for you to follow and to keep you inspired to work, because I've led you through this process many times. Now you can watch it on the video. I don't have to be there in front of you.
So the reason we're meeting today is because we're hoping to bring Tom to Vancouver for some
Not hoping,
workshops.
we are
bringing Tom to Vancouver for some workshops. Can you share with the audience a little bit about what they can expect in that workshop?
Well, I have 2 workshops. I have a weekend and a week long. Really quickly, people take the week long or the weekend go, oh, I wish we had done the week long. So the week long is learning all of Stanley's work, which is how to do a full VitaFlex treatment. That I spend probably 30 hours just learning VitaFlex. There is also
when
learning
you say full VitaFlex treatment as opposed to...
Well, I'll get to that. And then there's also learning how to do what's called a prolapsed colon lift, a technique that lifts or moves the colon back into place. There's diagrams of what that is in my book. There's a lecture on color therapy. There is a lecture on the master cleanse. There will be a lecture on parasites, which we could have spent 2 hours or just on parasites. Yeah. I then intertwine in all of this Louise Hay's work, the mind-body connection. And then of course, all of that, the use of essential oils. Because this is a package that fits together very neatly. And it's so simple, but yet so comprehensive and effective that I believe there's almost nothing that will match this work. Mm. And again, this isn't my work. This is just the therapies I've sort of melded together and made it a kind of a cohesive unit. And as I said, that's about a 45-hour workshop. I do weekends, which are only not quite 20 hours. So I can only teach so many hours. I can't teach how to do a full VitaFlex treatment, and there's no colon lift. I still lecture on color therapy and on the master cleanse. And in terms of cost, the weekend I usually charge $400, and on the week long $800. But it depends on where it's done, and if I have to rent a venue that costs a lot more money, then of course fees go up. But and then, as I mentioned to you earlier, I do have a money back guarantee with these.
You did.
And
mention that,
and I do have limited space when I do workshops, because I won't fill a class with as many people as I can get in. I will do limited amounts.
So it
12
can be taught properly.
Yeah, I wouldn't do more than 16. Ideally, no more than 14. But
Okay.
12 is a nice number of people that I will generally do.
Okay. You mentioned Parasites, so that's the only other work I've read or studied would be helpful.
Well, there's a chapter in my book on the
Okay.
parasites, but I believe parasites run the planet. They run the planet, without a doubt. And people will go, "Oh, what? That sounds crazy." If you start doing research, actually scientific research,
It does sound crazy.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, parasites that live inside you, and the average person, some of my friends, people I've met and who do some of their own research, say the average person carries at least 1 kilo or 2 to 3 pounds of parasites and the environment that they create to live in inside your body. Parasites live at the expense of your life. And one of the things they do is they eat. And then what do? They crap. They eliminate. They crap inside you. And what is that? Poison. They're neurotoxins. They affect the way you think and feel.
So the master cleanse
starves them. If you stand it long enough, you starve them to death.
Okay.
But it can take a very long time that way. So you can use color therapy. The color.
And then you pass them, I guess.
Yes, you pass them. Yeah. The color yellow kills parasites. There's various essential oils that you can use to kill parasites. I have a chapter called the Advanced Cleanse, and it's specifically to just kill parasites. They are so insidious and so hard to kill. They build firewalls. They build firewalls like somebody.
Like the computers.
Somebody, people say bunkers. Build a bunker. You can do all this stuff to kill them, and they just, as soon as you stop doing your stuff, they're just right back out doing their thing.
So then is that why antibiotics aren't working for people?
Well, there's a whole host of reasons and why antibiotics may or may not be working. I mean, just their overuse. Parasites, as I said, they build environments.
Or any substance for that matter.
Yeah, condos, casinos, spas, quite literally, when this advanced cleanse that I do, when you see what comes out into the toilet bowl, you have no comprehension now until you actually see it. My wife and
scared.
and a friend of mine did this advanced cleanse with another friend of ours in Las Vegas, and they refused to show me the pictures. And the reason is they wanted to be able to see my face when I saw the pictures of what was in the toilet with this person. And because I've seen hundreds and hundreds of bowls and stuff with all kinds of parasites, things like this that come
visuals I don't want to see right now.
And when I saw this, it's shocking to me, and they were just going like you just knew you wouldn't believe what, because they were trying to say like this, you can't imagine what we're seeing here. And the woman that was doing this, and she's a friend of mine, and she was saying it was like a war went on within her body, like the parasites on one end saying, we're going to control you, and her going, oh, I don't want that. It's because the waste that they dump into your body makes you crazy. It makes you insane. People who are manic depressive, psychotic, bipolar, suicidal, that's extreme parasites. Violent, that's all parasites. The stuff they're dumping into your body makes it difficult for you to control yourself. They exacerbate any emotional feeling that you have. So if you're depressed because somebody died, yeah, okay, it just makes you, they exacerbate that. And then so the thing is, when you're out of control, and that's what actually causes parasites, is when you feel like I'm not in control of my life, you get others inside you that control you. Oh. And so now I'll make bad food choices. I'm going to eat hot dogs and chips. I'm going to drink Coca-Cola. I don't feel like exercising now. I'm going to hang around with people who are abusive to me. Does this all make sense now? Do you see how this all ties together in a neat little package? Like most people that I talk to never think of in terms of how this all ties in. When I was writing my book...
so how does a parasite affect your thought? I have to ask.
How does it, by the waste they dump into your body,
the
poisons
toxin,
your brain,
right,
so that you can't think clearly.
Okay.
You think poorly, in fact.
Right.
But you ever heard of Gabriel Cousins? He's a medical doctor. He's in the raw food movement, very big in raw food. And the day I was talking to my ex-wife, who was actually helping me with the editing process, and as I was doing the book, and that night, because I was talking to her about parasites, she was on a live sort of web interview thing with Gabriel Cousins, and she said that night, he said, I wonder what parasite runs the Middle East. Because different parasites proliferate in different areas and make people think
a certain way.
Yes, through TV influence, governmental influence, religious influence, tribal influence, family influence. I mean, the health food industry. There's the IRS or the revenue. There are all these influences, and when you feel like people are doing things to you, you get things inside you to represent that. That's Louise Hay's work. Parasites are feeling like you're a victim or at the effect of others. And then you get others inside you that live and you're at the effect of. And so when you feel fearful, they make you feel even more fearful. And so I threaten people, in a sense, sometimes with, when you start this process, you're going to become more scared and you're going to want to run from this. And they start doing the cleanse, and usually the first day or two they're going, I get it, I'm afraid.
Right.
Of what? I don't know, I'm just afraid. They're getting, I go, it's not
It's
you.
working.
It's not you that's afraid, it's the parasites trying, because they're afraid. What you're doing is trying to kill them. They're doing their damnedest to prevent you from continuing this process. And that's why people sometimes go through these crises that, like they're afraid, or I got headache, I don't like the way I feel, it doesn't feel good, I want to go, I just want to get away. I go, who's talking? You?
Right.
Or the parasites? And I know this may sound way out there in left field, and I would challenge anybody, just come and do a cleanse that I do, and when you start seeing what comes out of the toilet, and you start experiencing the way you now feel, you go, okay, these things are coming out, and I feel different. Oh, these things are coming out. Oh, I feel a lot different now. It's kind of like, it's easy to go A to B.
So, okay, let's move away from the parasites. There's too many visuals in my mind right now. The cleanse itself, there's many cleanses out there right now. How do we zone people in to choose this one?
Well, interestingly enough, this has been around since 1941. It's the granddaddy of all cleanses, pretty much. I mean, there's water fasting. Water fasting is not cleansing. It's water fasting. The master cleanse is to stop eating as much food as possible, to shut down the digestive system to a minimal. And how do you do that? By being on a liquid mono diet. When I say mono, it's only lemonade. It's not this juice, that juice, this juice. It requires so little digestive influence that energy now turned, that's normally used or required for digestion, is now redirected into detoxifying the body and regenerating. It's not that you're just getting rid of garbage, you're also rebuilding the body.
Okay.
If you eat, you have all this digestive energy that's required, and what it does, remember we talked about color therapy earlier?
Absolutely.
So every food has its own energetic frequency that it releases. So if you're doing only lemonade and you're releasing lemon into your body and you're cleansing, now add beets to it. Beet juice. Add carrot juice. Apple juice. What do you think you're going to get? Murkiness. You're not going to get just lemon.
Full cold.
You're going to get all of these other colors. You stop the cleansing and you start digesting.
Right.
And so that process of really getting deep into the tissues stops. You can't get that on a juice diet of carrots and beets and celery and apple or whatever. You only get it on the lemonade. It's physically
concentrated. It's a concentrated cleanse.
Yeah. If you do water fasting, it's a starvation process. I'm not saying this is necessarily bad, but it works so much slower and so much less efficiently. And people, usually after 3 or 4 days, not all people, but most people after 3 or 4 days, lie down till they're done. And after they're done, it can take weeks of rehabilitation to get back to that energy level. When I'm on the lemonade diet, I have more energy. I have more strength. If I'm going to the gym, I lift more weight. I'm stronger. When I go back to eating, I typically have to reduce the weight because I'm not as strong while eating and this, for most people, they go, this doesn't make sense to me. This isn't sort of congruent with what I know, and it's because they haven't haven't had the experience.
Right.
I expected to feel weak and sick and tired when I did the cleanse, and I waited around for days. You know, okay, I'll be tired tomorrow. Okay, and then the next day, I won't feel so good tomorrow. No, but I then
They
never
become more energetic, is what you're going to tell me.
Now, some people, the first few days can be very difficult because they
Right.
start stirring up so much toxicity. But it's not the lemonade making them sick. It's all the crap
It's
that they
the
ate for 10 or
toxins.
20 or 30
Right.
years that made them sick. I've seen people go, oh, the lemonade made me sick. I go, one day of lemonade, they'll say it made them sick. And I said, not the 30 years of hamburgers you ate. And they kind of go, how could one day of lemonade make you sick? That's so absurd. But people do this all the time. And the whole thing is, that's the parasite speaking. You don't want to be responsible for how you are. You want to blame someone or something.
What about someone who's diabetic?
Well, many people are pre-diabetic
I know.
or type 2.
I know.
You just do it as it is.
Okay.
If you're insulin dependent, you have to do it slightly differently. And I don't have those instructions in my book. They're in Stanley Burroughs' book.
Okay.
And I do state that. If you're type 2 diabetic, you use molasses instead of maple syrup for about 5 days. And I won't get into the details on how to do it. They need to get Stanley's book. And I've seen people do it successfully, go from 60 to 70 units of insulin a day to 0 within 5 days and off their insulin for good. As long as they eat a good balanced diet, free of sugar and white flour and white rice and gooey foods and packaged foods and stuff. It requires a healthy diet to maintain that. I've seen people heal themselves of various illnesses, and then a year later, it reoccurs. And it's not that the program didn't work; it's they didn't follow the lead that the master plan brings you to. Okay, it healed me. So I lived this lifestyle. I created this condition. I did the lemonade diet. Went away. Do I go back to the old one? No, I adopt a new one. Do I know what that is? I used to say yes. Here's what you do. No, I don't. You need to trust your body.
And let your body tell you what to do
Yes,
next.
but you're not going to know until you do this generally a few times. Your body's too out of balance for you to trust. I go, people, my body wants this, my body wants that. And I go, it doesn't. No, that's not your body. That's the parasites actually going, I want this, I want that. And it's junk. I go, no, that's not what it wants. I would like to eat a steak every once in a while or eat chicken or whatever. I still have cravings for that. But if I eat that, I'm not going to feel well. So do I want to feel well, or do I want to have temporary taste buds?
Taste buds.
Yeah. I don't have, an ideal diet. I eat pizza once in a while.
Sure.
I like pizza. But I don't eat pizza 3 times a week or
Right.
once a week. I might eat it once every couple of weeks, sometimes once a month. I don't eat at McDonald's or Burger King or
Any other fast food?
No. I do like, I really like Indian food. I like Mexican
we love
food.
Indian food too.
I like Thai food. I like, I do a lot of, cooking for myself. I, cook a lot of stuff from scratch.
Bake pies, I understand.
Yeah, I bake pies, and I have a birthday party tomorrow. I was asked to bring a pie for dessert, so I'll be doing that. And I bake everything with either raw cane sugar or maple syrup. I'll do a 12-inch deep dish pie and have a quarter of a cup or less of sugar, where most people will add an entire cup of white sugar. And I've had many people, they eat my pie, if they don't know me, and they very sort of hesitantly will taste it and go, this isn't sweet. Because, most pie is so laden with sugar, and my pie will be tart, not sour, but a little, and people go, it's not full of sugar. I go, you're right, it's not. And, so I use the crust I use with whole wheat pastry flour. I use an organic trans fat free shortening, I got it. This is your audience might appreciate this. Why don't you eat trans fats?
Why don't you eat trans fats?
Yeah, hydrogenated fats. I'll explain why.
Okay.
Take coconut oil, which is not a trans fat or hydrogenated. Put it in your hand, and if you hold it, it'll melt. Take a hydrogenated fat and put it in the other hand. Hold
And
it.
it hardens?
Well, it hardens. It won't melt. So when you've eaten food that's been cooked with hydrogenated fats, and it's melted and goes into your body, gets into your bloodstream, and cools off, what does it do?
Hardens.
It hardens. You get sludge. And you get blocked arteries. Isn't that simple?
Yeah.
So they take, for example, in olive oil, there is one of the constituents is olivine. That's one of the lipids, or one of the fats in its pure form is called olivine. It melts at 4 degrees Celsius. Well, I don't know, when I'm 38 degrees, so it'll melt. When they hydrogenate it, it melts at about 44 or 45 degrees or something.
So why did they hydrogenate it in the first place?
Well, for a specific texture, because foods won't go bad as quickly, the oils don't go rancid, and the corn and I believe it's the corn and the soybean industries, they slandered and the coconut and palm oil industries, saying they were bad for you, so that they could hydrogenate their oils and sell them as a substitute. And heart disease rates didn't go down. They were blaming people, and for many years, because I've been eating coconut. I make my own milk from coconut and almonds. I do coconut almond milk. Been eating it for years, and people say, "Oh, isn't that high in cholesterol?" There's so many people believe for years that coconut was high in cholesterol. There is no cholesterol in coconut, and yet they eat dairy products, they eat beef, they eat pork, they eat eggs. Every one of those is high in cholesterol, and they're eating those and going. And coconut has none. I mean, that's how
the difference.
How we can be so, in a sense, brainwashed or
Sideswiped, obviously, by our parasites.
Or, by the media. You have to be careful what you see. In fact, I tell people, don't trust me, don't believe me, find out for yourself. Do the lemonade for 10 days, do it right, and then make your own assessment. Don't trust me. Absolutely. Don't trust what anybody else says then. Just find out from your own experience and make that assessment. And that's why when I used to say, oh, you should eat this way, and you hear me saying, I'm shooting on you. I don't say, you shouldn't do anything necessarily. Do this and see what happens. And find out because what may work good for you may not be best for me. I can give general guidelines, like you want to stay away from hydrogenated fats, from processed sugars, from processed foods, fried foods. There's just common sense. Eat more raw fruit and vegetables.
Right.
Just there's things like that just make sense.
And these are all common sensible things. So, we can get you access to Tom's book. We can get you access to Tom at a future date for some workshops. I've sort of exhausted all my questions. Do you have anything you want to share with the audience?
I would just like to say thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you for joining us. It's been wonderful.
As you can tell, I like to talk.
I like to talk too. We could go on forever.
Yeah. So, if any of you are out there and really looking for a system that is simple, effective, and very inexpensive to learn, I would love to come back and
we'd love to
teach.
You.
And
Absolutely.
I'm always looking for people who, because there are people all over the world. There are very few people like myself that do this work, and there's a market for it. There's like I now travel. I'm going back to Australia shortly to work there. I've got somebody coming from. He's flying in from Israel, so I can teach him one-on-one.
Wow.
As I say, I go all over. And
Tom's right in our backyard, so we better take advantage of this.
I live right here, in BC. Well, thank you again.
Thank you, Tom.
I look forward to coming back.
Absolutely. Okay. We look forward to having you. Thank you.